Hey y'all, welcome to the Memoirs of a Sinner, a personal growth podcast by Her Kinkz. How many of us have had a moment where our unbelief, our lack of understanding, although God has taken the time to prepare us for our current season, our lack of faith will have us not recognizing that what we are encountering is a God thing. From personal experience, I can say that, and for the people that's around me, those from hearing different stories and testimonies, that even when we're having these moments of unbelief and we're not understanding, we're not seeing the face of God, we're not believing that this is truly something that God is in, God will still call out our name so that we know it's Him. He will make sure and give us further confirmation to let us know that this is Him. He is present. This is a God thing. He is leading us. He is guiding us in this situation. I'm not a singer, but a song is playing in my head by Tasha Cobbs, and I got to share it with y'all. It goes, He knows my name. He knows my name. Oh, how He walks with me. Oh, how He talks with me. Oh, how He tells me that I am His own. And it is here in your presence that I am made new. In John chapter 20, verses 14 through 18, we can see the story of a woman named Mary Magdalene. Now, to give y'all a little background of Mary, Jesus healed Mary from multiple spirits, right? Multiple evil spirits. And Mary lived a life, once she had an encounter with Jesus, she lived a life where she desired His presence, right? So much so that she would sit at His feet and she would cry out and wash His feet with her tears and wipe His feet down with her hair and take expensive oil and pour it out on Him. That she would experience intimacy without seeing. This is the Bible teaches us how to experience intimacy, and God tells us how to love like Him. When we just look at these examples, we see the intimacy, right? And the expressions of love. But Mary lived a life after an encounter with Jesus, after an encounter with God, that was dedicated to His presence. And she wasn't just dedicated to being in His presence when He was alive. Well, she was present at the crucifixion. She was there for that. But even after He was crucified, um, in John chapter 20, she is now at going to His tomb, right? So she's still going to be in His presence, to be around and, to see Him and encounter Him, right? Even in His death. And so she gets to the tomb and she sees He ain't in there. She sees Jesus is not in there. Even though Jesus prepped. Even though Jesus prepped His disciples in advance and told them they are going to do me dirty, but I'm going to resurrect in 3 days. Mary, along with the disciples as well, the 12 men that walked with Him as well, she is dumbfounded. Like, what is going on? Where is He at? And she's grieved by it. She's hurt. She's crying out. And she hears a voice. She hears a man, asking her, woman, why are you crying? Who are you looking for? Right? And Mary doesn't realize that this is Jesus talking to her, right? And she's telling the man, and she's like, look, if you took him away, let me know where you put him at. I'll go there and I'm gonna get him. And again, on that intimacy, all Jesus did was say Mary's name, and Mary knew immediately that it was Him because she had been in His presence. She knows His voice. So by verse 16, Jesus is like, Mary, Mary. And like she's like, what? Like, hold on, wait a minute, teacher, that's you? Wait a minute, like what's going on? All from God saying out her name. Her grief left her confusion left her. She realized the person she was looking for was in her face. He was standing right there. He was in her presence, right? Another song is playing in my head by Jonathan McReynolds. It goes, I've seen it for myself, all the stories I can tell of an ever present help and a God that just won't fail. Whew. God will walk in a room, He will show up in a place just so we can see Him for ourselves. And this is not an April Fool's joke. He intentionally will show up to make sure that we know that He is present and that this is Him, to give us our further confirmations, right? So Mary runs off and she goes to tell the disciples, hey, y'all, Jesus is alive, right? And so Jesus goes and he meets with the disciples, the men that were disciples, his main 12 minus Judas, because Judas had killed himself by then. So the 11. He goes and he encounters the 10, right? Everybody's there but Thomas. And they all see like, wait a minute, like this is really Jesus. Like, he really did resurrect after 3 days. Like, this is wow. He really is God. Like, he really is our savior, right? And so Thomas isn't there. And Thomas is the one who experiences the most doubt, right? Out of all people, Thomas the one that's not in the room. He the main one that should have been there the first go round. But when you fast forward a little bit to like verse 26 in that same chapter of John chapter 20, all the disciples, the 11 are in a room, right? The 11 are sitting in a room, and Jesus shows up intentionally. He shows up because he knows Thomas is going to be in the room, and he wants doubting Thomas to have some faith. And so as soon as Jesus shows up, the first thing he does is he starts removing doubt, right? Doubt can't be in the room. He is there intentionally. His purpose, his plan at this moment is to remove doubt. And so he started telling Thomas, look at my hands. Look at where they nailed me. You can still see the scars, right? You can still see where they nailed into my hands. And look at my side. The wound is still there from what they did to me. Like, I'm showing you this is really me. I really am alive, right? Because he didn't want Thomas to still doubt that that this was really, really him. And then he told Thomas, don't be faithless any longer. I'm removing your doubt. I'm removing your lack of faith because I'm showing you right now that this is me. Who y'all been grieving over, who y'all been crying over, that when I had already prepped y'all in advance on what to expect, here I am, right? Here I am in the flesh. Jesus didn't look like everything that he had been through, right? He had the scars to show that he had went through what he experienced, but he was supposed to be dead, right? He didn't look like death. Jesus was looking like life. And so it brought his followers a lot of confusion because they're expecting death and they're getting life. They're not expecting him. They've seen him go around and resurrect people from the dead, but they weren't expecting the resurrector to resurrect himself, like the spirit within him resurrecting him. They thought that it was all over at that moment. And so Jesus is showing them, I got the scars to show that I went through, that I experienced everything I went through, and to show and prove to y'all that this is really me. But I don't look like what I'm supposed to look like after this. I don't look like the death, right? Another song is playing in my head, child. The music is just going. It's another Tasha Cobbs song, and it goes, I just gotta believe that there is goodness around the corner and something better is in store for me. Someday I will see. There's a reason for all these tears, and there's an answer to these prayers if I only believe. Jesus' disciples only had to grieve for 48 hours because on the third day, what Jesus had promised them, what he had been preparing them for all along, was meeting them where they were at. They never had to go searching for it because it showed up. It showed up and met them where they were at. Jesus showed up. The promise, what I told y'all in the first place, was coming to show up right where y'all are at. I know how to reach y'all, right? During Jesus' last days, the Jews were being oppressed by the Romans. And they had been given a prophetic word thousands of years earlier that a king will come and save them. However, when Jesus showed up, he didn't look or act the way they would assume him to be, so they instead chose to crucify him. They denied him, they rejected him, and instead they began claiming the government that they were praying to be freed from as their own. Even when what we are waiting for, it doesn't look like how we expect for it to look, right? We've been praying and asking God for something and he has made a promise to us, but when it shows up and it doesn't look like what we are expecting it to look like, instead of rejecting it and settling for the very thing that we are praying to get out of, ask God to help you to see what he sees. I was doing a devotional recently, and I want to leave you all with this quote from it. It said that God doesn't leave us at a gravesite. He leads us with a purpose out of an empty tomb. I love you all in real life. If you'd like to stay connected, you can follow me on Instagram at the Insta About Her, THEINSTAABOUTHER, and make sure you subscribe and leave a review.